Hey everyone, and welcome back to Timeless. Today we are going to be going over the bonus cards from Bloomburrow. Now we are only going to be going over the special guests and the critters for Bloomburrow. We're not going over the main set yet. We're going to make a separate video on that. I think it's going to go up this weekend. But all of the special guests and the critters just got spoiled, so we're going to go through all of them really quick. Just want to say, there's some beautiful art if you look above me. These are ones that are already on Arena, but they're so cute. I'm going to craft that Teferi just for the art because he looks fabulous. Now, unfortunately, even though the art is awesome and the flavor is an absolute win, it was really a whiff on powerful cards. This is not a Modern Horizons 3 power level set, and the bonus sheet is not like Eldraine power level giving us Necropotence. You look at the tier list, this is it. This is the final tier list. Nothing made S tier, nor A tier, nor B tier, or even C tier. I really think that the best card in this bonus sheet is D tier. So if you are short on Mythic Wild cards after Modern Horizons 3, congratulations, you can hold off on crafting these for a little bit, or just craft your favorite. Like if you're a dedicated Jace fan and you want to try it out, sure, you can go ahead and try them out. But don't feel the need to craft anything to keep up with the meta. We're going to go through each of these cards that are on the tier list individually. I think that these are the only cards out of them that are playable. There were 20 of the cute creatures, and I think 10 on the bonus sheet. And the unfortunate part this time is that a lot of them, like Swords to Fairy Karn, etc., are already on Arena, especially the powerful ones are already on Arena. So in terms of new cards, we only got about a dozen. So I'm going to go over all of them. The first and most likely to make an impact, even though it is D tier, and I think it is really fringe and it's not likely to have a huge impact, is Frogmite. And it's the question, can he save Affinity? Or more of, can that boy actually make Affinity be a thing? Because Affinity is not viable in Timeless right now. It's not nearly on power level for the format, and it's missing a lot of pieces compared to Modern or Legacy Affinity. Let's really quickly compare what we have on Arena to this list that I brought up here. This is a recent Modern Affinity 5.0 list, and we can go over what we do and we don't have on Arena. So we have a lot of green here. There are a lot of cards that we have, and then I circled Frogmite in yellow, so we're getting that. So we're getting much closer to having the full picture. We also have Retrofitter Foundry on Arena, not in Modern. This is very powerful and amazing for affinity strategies, so that is a +1 for the deck. However, we're still missing a lot of things compared to Modern, and keep in mind, Modern is a slower format than Timeless. Affinity in this format would really need to punch hard and punch fast in order to make an impact in the metagame. Unfortunately, we're missing the premium 0 drops, such as Memnite and Welding Jar. Welding Jar is really sweet to be able to save your own creatures with, and Memnite, just being a 0 mana creature, helps you hit that critical mass to get your affinity going. We're missing the good interaction in Galvanic Blast, which if you don't know that card, oh, we have it next slide. Forgot. We're missing the good interaction of Galvanic Blast, which is a 1 mana 4 damage in this deck all the time. We're missing the other cheap draw 2 in the deck, which is Thoughtcast. And of course, we're missing Urza Saga, which is the biggest thing. This is really like the glue that holds Modern, Legacy, Affinity together. It lets you search for a specific artifact out of your deck. It lets you make some really big constructs. It is a win condition on a land. It's amazing. And how does Timeless Affinity possibly compensate for losing all of these pieces? In my opinion, I don't think it can, because the only things that we have that Modern doesn't is Retrofitter Foundry, which I said before, incredibly strong, by the way. I'm not going to deny, that card is crazy. Turn 1 Ornithopter plus Retrofitter Foundry is one of the best starts that you can have in Historic, and I think it's also a defensible start in Timeless. But the rest of the deck is not there. One thing Timeless does have that Modern does not have is Brainstorm. So these affinity decks are blue-based. We can play actual factual Brainstorm to help sculpt our hands and set up our good affinity hands. And I also saw some people in Modern list playing the new 1 mana Tamiyo, so we could use Brainstorm to flip that, and that could be a piece in the list, but unfortunately, it seems like Affinity is lagging really far behind the Modern version. And since Modern, in my opinion, is slower than Timeless, I don't think we can make Affinity work. However, one thing that Frogmite does have going for it, if you look at this slide that I make really quick, on the left, my camera's mirrored. On the left, we have quality 0s and 1s, which is something that Affinity needs to go to get an artifact count. And then on the other side, we have our high quality 7 mana payoffs, which are usually costing 0 or 1 mana. And on Arena, we never had the middle part, which are the cards that cost about 4 or 5 that are sort of a stepping stone that help you get to the critical mass of 7 artifacts or help you draw a few extra cards. We never had Frogmite or Thoughtcast in the middle of like the quote unquote curve. I know this isn't a traditional mana curve, you're not actually paying 7 mana, but it kind of functions like a mana curve. And we never had these middle cards. So can having a 4 mana affinity piece save affinity on Arena, by which I mean make affinity be a thing? I don't think so, but this is now a card that is permanently part of the deck builder's toolkit on Arena, and if we got 1 or 2 more pieces that helped with affinity, we would absolutely be playing 4 copies of Frogmite in that deck. I just don't think it gets there right now. All right, up next, the next most likely card I think to see play from the special guests is Sylvan Tutor. Sylvan Tutor is a 1 mana sorcery that says search your library for creature card, reveal it, and then put it on top. It does not put it into your hand, it puts it on top. So I was doing some brainstorming trying to think of when you can use this card. Keep in mind, this is a 1 mana green tutor. That's really strong. We only have one way to do this for 2 mana in Timeless, and that card is restricted, being Dark Ritual in black. There's a couple of tutors that cost 3 mana in Timeless, but this is the only real way to do it for 1 mana. That's very powerful. And there are some BS combos in Timeless, so you can use it to set those up. So I was trying to think of potential applications for this, and the one that jumped to mind first is Birthing Ritual. You could Sylvan Tutor, put a creature on top of your library, and then it's a guaranteed hit off Birthing Ritual. So if you have like a bunch of one-of utility creatures in your deck, you could do that. But then why not just play Recruiter the Guard? It's an idea. It's probably the best idea I've had so far how to use this. Somebody on Discord was telling me that you could Sylvan Tutor, put a Crater Hoof on top of your deck, and if you're playing elves and you have the Leaf Crown Visionary in play or just anything else to draw a card, you can then draw the Crater Hoof and then play it to win the game. Sure, you could do that. If you're playing a Yawgmoth deck, you can put something on top as you're doing your combo. Why you wouldn't want to just play another Chord of Calling, I don't know. Maybe this is your 5th copy of Chord. I don't think so. I don't think this is going to be an instant meta hit, which is why it's in D tier, but it is like Frogmite, one of those cards that is just like going to be forever in the back of your mind when you build a deck. You're like, oh, do I want a 1 mana tutor for a specific creature because I'm building a creature combo? This might be a card you look to. All right, up next in D tier is Birds of Paradise. I didn't put it in F tier, even though it dies to Bowmasters. This was really borderline between D and F tier. So, the obvious case of dies to Bowmasters, the real reason why I don't think Birds of Paradise is going to be seeing play in Timeless is because there is already competition with it in terms of 1 mana ramp creatures. There's both Deathrite Shaman and Delighted Halfling as 1 mana traditional mana dorks that have 2 toughness, which is really big in the meta right now. Deathrite Shaman is also a fucked up card and one of the most blatant design mistakes of all time. Like, it's a 1 mana planeswalker. You're never going to play Birds of Paradise over that. So, in some decks where you don't have legends, maybe you could put Birds of Paradise over Halfling if you wanted 5+ mana dorks. Do you want 5+ mana dorks in any deck in Timeless? Well, maybe if you're dedicated, or like a really dedicated ramp deck. But the thing is, if you look at like the top of the slide, the dedicated ramp decks, what they're playing instead is Arboreal Grazer and Kami and Flare of Cultivation. So they're not even using mana dorks. So it's going to be tough for Birds of Paradise to break in. In fact, when Winota was a popular deck in Timeless a while ago, people actually didn't play mana dorks in that deck. They played Arboreal Grazer because it was more resilient. And you would use Arboreal Grazer to ramp into your Winota, and it's also a non-human that can attack. So I'm having difficulty seeing Birds of Paradise see play in Timeless. However, it's the famous card, so it's gotta at least go in D tier. It's at least a card you can think about playing, but I wouldn't play it over Deathrite Shaman, and at least in the current ramp decks, it's not beating out Kami, Grazer, and Flare. All right, we're on to F tier, and it goes down in quality pretty quick here. So this is a cute squirrel, but unfortunately for 4 mana and Timeless, you want to do something a little bit better than searching for a basic swamp or a removal spell that kills the planeswalker. This is not it. Adorable art, though. I love it. All right, up next is Jace in F tier. Half the reason he's in F tier is for engagement, of course. We're gonna get the typers in the comments. I actually really enjoy when people write detailed comments. It's very nice, and I know people are gonna have a lot of things to say about Jace. Jace, he is a defensible pick as like a 1 of or a 2 of in your control deck, absolutely. And if you love playing control and love playing Jace, go ahead and craft him and like have fun. I'm not telling you to not have fun. But I'm thinking from like a super spiky meta perspective, is he going to be playable in control decks? Even in modern, he's really fallen off lately. I went for look at recent decks on Goldfish. There were only two results, and there were two random people doing 5-0s. Um, and he's like the number one pet card of all time, so people are playing the one copy of him just for fun. And those decks did only have one copy of him. Unfortunately, Arena is also missing a lot of classic cards that are very good with Jace. We're missing Counterbalance, the absolute classic in Miracles Control, and we're also missing the actual Miracles cards, which are Terminus and Temporal Mastery. We're also going to go ahead and point out that we have actual factual brainstorm on Arena, so even if we did have Terminus, people would just play the blue-black Lurrus control deck and put Counterbalance in that deck. you know, it's the bolt. I'm kind of tugging your chain a little bit. Jace is probably not the worst card ever to register, which is why I'm mentioning it. You'll notice like there are some cards that didn't even make F tier because they're like completely unplayable and there's no reason to ever play them. In my opinion, Jace is F tier because I don't think he's going to be impacting the meta, but there is one hope for Jace, and that is Mana Drain. Mana Drain can pretty consistently give you 2 mana, meaning Jace will only cost 2, which means that on turn 3 or 4 you can play Jace and still hold mana up. That is really good, and it might be the thing that saves Jace and makes him playable, because of course you're going to be playing 4 Mana Drain in your Jace deck. It's just that, I'm not a control player. I'm primarily the aggro deck player. As you can see, I've been playing so much energy lately. And I just imagine myself playing an energy deck, and my opponent says, okay, I tap out, spend 4 mana on Jace, and I'm just like, I turn all my creatures sideways. You were at 4 HP. That Jace did not save you. So it definitely could be defensible as a 1 or a 2 of in control. I'm not the control gamer. The real control gamers are going to test it. Jace, like I said, is a fan favorite, probably the number 1 pet card of all time. So we'll hear from the control players in a couple of weeks whether or not he's actually worth playing. In my opinion, no, he's not going to impact the meta. Maybe he could be a 1 or a 2 of for fun, especially alongside Mana Drain. But if somebody does want to come back to this video in 3 weeks and write me an essay on how good he is, then feel free. It's free YouTube engagement for free, man. You're just boosting me in the algo. Up next is Baleful Strix, which is another F tier card, and most people would immediately see this card and say, Bowmaster's meta, F tier, get it out of here. This is F tier with stipulations here, because we do have use cases. You could build like an Esper Flicker deck around like Ophelia and Soul Herder. You can do that. Ophelia is an okay card. It's a card I've cut from Energy lately, but I think the card is okay. And, with a critical mass of things to flicker with it, maybe it gets better. Baleful Strix is also very interesting because it is a blue and black creature that draws a card to replace itself, and it pitches to both flares. I've seen Dredge decks play both flares on ladder, and I think that strategy is actually pretty solid. It's not solid because it dies to graveyard hate, but it is solid because you get to play 8 free spells. And Flare of Malice and Flare Denial are the 2 most generically good flares from MH3. Flare of Cultivation might be a little stronger, but that goes only in specific ramp decks, where Flare, Malice, Flare, Denial are just very generically good ways to interact with your opponent. So the fact that this is a 2-mana creature that replaces itself and pitches to both of these flares kind of has me interested in it, and I think that might be the one thing that makes this at all playable. But I would not get my hopes up if I were you. I don't get my hopes up. All right, up next, we have a special guest. This costs 6 mana. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. All right, up next, the next most playable card, in my opinion, is Ink Eyes. And if we're at the point where the next most playable card is Ink Eyes, I think we're going to stop. I love this set. The set is super cute, but like I said before, it's a little bit of a miss in terms of power level for Timeless, and that's totally okay. Not every set needs to shake up the Timeless metagame. We just got Modern Horizons 3. That was the biggest shakeup I've ever seen in Timeless, and it's probably the biggest shakeup that Timeless will ever get. Now that Timeless has like such a density of powerful cards in it, it's going to be hard to shake up the format that much again, unless WotC decides to print Vintage Masters or something ridiculous onto Arena. So that's my take. Unfortunately, the special guest seat does not have anything else for Timeless. Your mythics are safe this time. The actual set does have a couple of cards that are a little bit more playable. I'm going to make a follow-up video once the set is fully officially spoiled in a couple of days. Thanks for watching, folks.